There's a story that every Argentine over the age of 40 tells the same way. They don't start with the football. They start with where they were, what they were wearing, who they were sitting next to, what they had in their hands when the second goal went in against England in 1986. Because that goal, that 60-yard run through 6 players, the most extraordinary thing any individual has ever done in a World Cup, didn't just happen on a pitch in Mexico City. It happened in every living room, every street, every bar in Argentina simultaneously. And then it was gone. And the question that never fully disappears, not in 1990, not in 1994, not in any of the tournaments that followed, is what would have happened if he had one more chance. Not the 1990 Maradona, fighting through pain. Not the 1994 Maradona, who never got to finish the tournament. The 1986 version. 25 years old. The greatest player who ever lived at the precise moment he was the greatest player who ever lived. What if that version arrived at the 2026 World Cup? I'll tell you exactly what happens. But I need you to understand something before we get there, because this story does not go the way any Argentine or any football fan on earth would predict. Not even close. The year is 2026. The World Cup is in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. 48 teams, the biggest tournament ever staged. And somehow, through whatever crack in football's reality, this alternate timeline runs through Diego Armando Maradona. 25 years old, 1986 model. At the absolute violent peak of his physical and footballing ability, is placed on the Argentina squad list. Not as a gesture, not as a tribute, as the number 10, the number he owns. The squad list drops on a Thursday morning. By Friday, 3 national team managers have canceled their scheduled press conferences. Not rescheduled, canceled. They have nothing to say because every tactical conversation they have planned for the last 4 months has just become irrelevant. Because here's the thing about prime Maradona that modern tactical analysis completely fails to capture. He didn't play football within the game's structure. He played in the gaps between the structure, the undefended space that systems create by being systems. The half-second windows that open when defenders follow their training instead of their instincts. He lived in those windows. He ate them alive. And the 2026 World Cup has more systems, more structure, more data-driven defending than any tournament in football history, which means it has more gaps than any tournament in football history, which means it has more gaps than any tournament in football history. But here's what nobody is talking about while the world processes what this squad list means. Inside the Argentina camp, something is already going wrong, and it won't become obvious for 3 weeks. But when it does, it will be the most talked about thing in football since the tournament began. Group stage. Argentina versus a European side who finished runners-up at the last World Cup. A side built on positional discipline, aggressive pressing triggers, and fullback intensity that has made them one of the hardest teams in world football to break down. Their manager's pre-match setup is meticulous. He has studied footage going back decades. He has identified pressing lanes, coverage shadows, trigger positions. He has built a shape specifically designed to contain the space that Maradona has historically exploited. It works for 8 minutes. Then Maradona receives the ball 30 yards from goal with his back to play, 2 midfielders pressing him from both sides and a center back covering the space in front. And he does something that no tactical model has an answer for. He stops. Completely. For exactly 1 second, in the middle of a World Cup match, with the game at full pace around him, Maradona goes completely still. Both pressing midfielders react. One plants his weight for the tackle. One adjusts his position to cover the anticipated movement. That 1 second of stillness has completely reorganized both defenders' weight distribution. Then he goes. 3 touches, 6 meters. 2 defenders on the ground. He is in behind the defensive line and plays a reverse pass to an Argentina forward who scores. The goal takes 11 seconds from the moment Maradona receives the ball. The silence in the European team's coaching box lasts considerably longer. But here's what that goal doesn't show. Here's what the replay doesn't capture. In the 73rd minute of the same match, Argentina winning 3-0, the game already decided, Maradona receives the ball deep in Argentina's half and plays a straightforward 5-yard pass to his left back. It's the most normal touch of his entire game. And the 2 analysts watching the footage for the team Argentina will face in the round of 16 are not looking at that pass. They're looking at the left back who received it. because the way Maradona's presence organizes the Argentine structure, the movement patterns, the positional logic, the instinctive rotating, has made a fairly ordinary left back look like a player operating 3 levels above his normal ceiling. The Maradona effect doesn't just make one player better, it makes everyone around him almost unrecognizable. And that is the most frightening thing in the tournament. Not what Maradona does with the ball, what he does to everyone around him when he has it. Group stage complete. Argentina win 3 from 3. The scoreline, 11 goals, 1 conceded, makes front pages globally. But the real number, the one the analysts keep returning to, is this. 6 of those goals were scored by players other than Maradona. He has made Argentina a 10-player problem. And now the round of 16 arrives. And so does the manager who smiled during the group stage footage. He coaches Spain. Modern Spain. Technically extraordinary, positionally fluid, the best footballing culture on earth in terms of structure and system and collective intelligence, and he tells his players something the night before the game that causes a quiet argument in the room. He tells them to ignore the ball, not Maradona, the ball. He tells them that Maradona's body position tells you the next pass location 2 seconds before the pass is made. So if you watch the ball, you are already 2 seconds late. But if you watch Maradona's body, his left shoulder, his hip angle, his left foot, you are 2 seconds early. His players push back. You can't not watch the ball in a football match. It's instinct. It's reflex. He tells them to practice it for 90 minutes in training the following morning. For 41 minutes of the match, it works. Spain pressed the ball out of Argentina's system repeatedly. They neutralized Maradona's influence more completely than any team has managed in the tournament. He is forced backward. He is forced sideways. He is forced into areas of the pitch where his impact is reduced. 41 minutes. Then, in the 42nd minute, Maradona receives the ball on the right side. Not his preferred territory, and does something that shouldn't be physically possible. He plays left, not the ball, himself. His entire body shape reads left. His shoulder goes left. His hip angle shifts left. His left foot opens. Spain's midfield shifts their positioning 2 seconds early, exactly as trained. And then the ball goes right. A 30-yard diagonal pass with the outside of his right boot into a corridor. Spain has just vacated. Goal. The Spanish manager stands on his touchline for 35 seconds without moving. When he sits down, his assistant asks him something. He doesn't respond. Because in one touch, Maradona has not just beaten Spain's system, he has beaten the system by making the system beat itself. Spain push for an equalizer. They get close twice. Argentina hold on. Quarterfinals. And here is where the story changes. Here is the moment that nobody watching from outside the Argentina camp understands. The thing that has been building since the first training session and has now reached a point that the coaching staff can no longer manage privately. The problem is not Maradona's ability. The problem is Argentina's structure. Because the 2026 Argentina squad has been built for a specific identity: compact, physical, organized. Players who know their roles precisely, who execute game plans reliably, who function as a collective machine. They were not built to orbit a genius. And here's what nobody in 1986 had to articulate because it happened organically. But in 2026, with a squad that has never played with him, the adjustment period is brutal. Players run into space. Maradona has already mentally abandoned. They position for passes he decided not to play. They arrive in channels he is creating, not for them, but for the third movement of a sequence they haven't processed yet. He is 3 plays ahead of his own team. And in the quarterfinal against a German side who have specifically targeted Argentina's coordination breakdown, not Maradona's brilliance, the coordination breakdown, it nearly cost them. Germany pressed the Argentine structure precisely in the moments of temporal disconnect when Maradona has already moved to the next phase and his teammates are still in the last one. Argentina survive. A Maradona free kick wins it in the 89th minute. A moment of individual absolute genius that the German defensive wall has no answer for, regardless of their preparation, regardless of their analysis, regardless of their discipline. The free kick goes through a gap that should not exist. The goalkeeper doesn't move. Not because he doesn't try, because his body genuinely cannot process the speed and trajectory in the time available. Semifinals. Argentina versus France. The atmosphere is unlike anything in the tournament. And for the first time, the Argentine public, who have been celebrating every match with the volume of a nation who has waited their entire lives for this, begins to notice something. Maradona has been quiet in the press conferences. Not difficult, not aggressive. Quiet. He answers every question with 3 words or fewer. He doesn't make eye contact with journalists. He leaves before any other player. The night before the semi-final, one of the backroom staff sees him sitting alone in the hotel lobby at 2 in the morning, a glass of water in front of him, the lobby completely empty. He doesn't look like a man preparing for a semi-final. He looks like a man carrying something. The semi-final itself is extraordinary. France, modern France, fast and technically immaculate. Press higher and harder than any team in the tournament. For 50 minutes, they force Argentina into their own half repeatedly, and the familiar disconnection in the Argentine structure causes genuine chaos. 3 times Argentina lose possession in dangerous positions. 3 times Maradona materializes from nowhere, from the wrong area of the pitch, from a position nobody told him to be in, and recovers the ball. Not with skill, with will. In the 63rd minute, he collects the ball in his own half, takes 4 touches, looks up, and delivers a pass so precisely weighted and angled that it creates a free run for the Argentine striker in a way that the French defensive line will spend 6 months reviewing and still not fully explain. Goal. Argentina hold on. They win 2-1, final score. And after the final whistle, Maradona stands on the pitch for a long time. He doesn't celebrate. He doesn't run. He stands at the halfway line and looks at the stadium. All of it. Every angle. Every seat. A teammate puts a hand on his shoulder. He doesn't respond for a full 10 seconds. Then he turns and walks toward the tunnel. The final. Argentina versus Brazil. One alternate reality versus another. 2 nations who define what football is and what football means. 2 squads who have each rewritten history just by being here. What happens in those 90 minutes? What Maradona does? What Argentina do? What the result means for how football understands greatness is something that fills every broadcast, every column, every conversation for the next decade. But here's the thing about this scenario. Here's the part that never fully makes it into the version of the story people tell later. Maradona wins. Argentina win. The tournament is his. The trophy is real. And the night after the final, the backroom staff member who saw him in the lobby at 2 in the morning sees him again. Same lobby, same empty room, same glass of water. He asks Maradona if he is okay. Maradona looks at him for a moment. He says, "You only get to be the best once. The problem is you don't know it while it's happening." He picks up the water glass, takes a drink, sets it back down. "We should have played better in the quarterfinal." And that's it. The greatest footballer who ever lived, 24 hours after winning the World Cup, sitting alone in an empty hotel lobby, telling a backroom coach that they should have played better in the quarterfinal, not because he is ungrateful, not because the trophy doesn't mean what it means, because that is what it is to be Diego Armando Maradona. The demand never stops. The standard never lowers. The gap between what is possible and what actually happens never fully closes, not even when you win. Football gave us one of him, and the game will spend the rest of its history measuring everything against a standard that was set in a World Cup in 1986, and again in this alternate timeline in 2026. Some players win football. Maradona redefined what winning meant.